Simon, Tottenham, in disarray. Yesterday, it could have been any number.
Yeah.
5-0 at half-time against Newcastle United. They end up losing 6-1. Conte's gone. What was the sense in appointing his number 2, Christian Stellini, from now until the end of the season? Because he was part of the old regime, and a lot of Tottenham fans are saying, what on earth was Daniel Levy, your mate, thinking about by doing a move like that? Why not have a plan in mind? Conte, as soon as Conte disappears, we put in X or Y from outside the club. A name who's going to do more than a selling job from now until the end of the season.
I don't disagree. I mean, I can find no substance behind putting Stellini in place besides...
Was it the cheap option?
Well, I suspect it's absence of choice, because we've sat here...
It saves a lot of money, doesn't it, have to sack the backroom staff?
Well, they're going to go anyway, aren't they, at some point? So you're talking about timing. So you're talking about 3 months worth of timing. It's hardly going to make anybody particularly wince, is it? It's the bottom line between it. I wouldn't have put Stellini in place. I'd have looked for a replacement. But if there's no replacement available and you're looking around saying absence of choice, who am I going for? Look... We've got to get past this narrative that somehow I'm defending Daniel and that ultimately Conte gave him a choice. Because
only the Chelsea fans think,
I can tell you...
Chairman's Union, Simon.
Well, it feels like it on this side of the table.
Well, that's fine, because you're looking at it through uneducated eyes. I can tell you categorically that Daniel Levy wanted to keep Conte in place, knew that the end was coming, but wanted to keep him in place at the end of the season to be able to achieve a top 4. Because I said to Daniel, I'm not worried about breaking any particular confidence. He's a pain in the arse now, isn't he? When you get rid of him, he said, because my better alternative is to get inside the top 4 with him here, and I'm not going to go down and aggravate him. I'm not going to go and poke him because I don't need to, because it will create the opportunity that he wants. Here we are now. Conte didn't get the poke that he wanted in terms of a reaction from Daniel Levy. He sets it on fire. So now you're in a situation where you've got no choice now. So he didn't actually plan for Conte to go. He didn't actually fire him. He was left with a situation where he couldn't do anything else, but decided that the parting of the ways was inevitable. Then you've got to go, who do I replace him with? And you look around. Chelsea can't find anybody. Chelsea have gone for Lampard as an interim. What did you want to do? Go find the next Tottenham player that maybe you liked once upon a time to sit in situ because it appeals to a certain section of the fan base. Will Harry Redknapp out of retirement so he can
Ryan
do
Mason
something?
did it last year.
Do you feel Daniel Levy...
The fans bought into Ryan Mason. They don't know.
Did Daniel Levy do the right thing? Yes or no?
With Conte? Throughout the entirety of their relationship?
With his decision to effectively sack him?
Again, you can't keep rehashing the same argument. I don't think he sacked him.
You
I think he was
job, don't you?
Well, no. I think what clearly happened was, as I've said to you on a number of occasions,
it was a parting of the ways.
A parting of the ways, but I don't think he didn't sack him. He sat there with no bleeding choice. When you've got someone saying, "I don't want to be here," I think the whole group of these players are bleeding useless and selfish and worthless, and so is his football club. What are you going to do? Then say to him, "Oh, please stay."
But Simon,
what do you do in that
these Tottenham
situation?
fans are not wrong. There is more to this than meets the eye. Behind the scenes, there's chaos. It implodes when Mourinho's there. Days before a League Cup final,
I don't think
and
it's
he
good.
bins Mourinho.
Yeah, I don't think it's good.
So thereafter, everyone's like, whoopie-doo, they get Conte. As you would say, here's a live one.
Again,
he's out of there.
You might want to ask the players that decided they didn't want to play for Mourinho anymore, that went en masse and made that opinion very clear to the owner, that they didn't want to play for Mourinho. You might want to ask them why that situation manifests itself.
You're pinning it on the players then, you're pinning it on the players now.
I'm pinning individual performances on the players. The overall lack of direction that this club has had with some of the appointments and some of the bad decisions that have been made is Daniel Levy's responsibility. He's the owner of the football club. That's it. It's the end of the discussion.
But Conte was aiming it at the players, Jim, in the end, wasn't he? On his final exit, to be his final debrief after a game, he said, look, the players... Because he knew that's the way it gets him out the door. And you look and you think, well, okay, where are the leaders in that group now? And it's like we talked about playing for the badge, Jim, isn't it? When we can hide behind the tactics, we can say we don't believe in the current manager, but at the end of the day, you fight for the team, the shirt, for the badge, for the fans.
Yeah.
And that seemed to disappear, and that's the most worrying thing. So who is it in that group now? It's a very important day in their football club right now to try and pull this around, because people have to stand up and see who they are. Who are the characters?
Number one, behind the scenes, do you stick with Stellini from this point onwards?
It depends.
Or do you say thanks to him today?
Well, it depends what you've got to replace him with. Everyone, I watched the Spurs guys talking on Sky this morning, and everyone can tell you how to fire somebody. No one can tell you who to replace them with and what that looks like. Besides, let's trot out of Harry Redknapp. Oh, fantastic.
You're telling us it's beyond the wit of Daniel Levy to find someone to go in there and do a better job than Stellini's done?
It's beyond the wit of Chelsea to find a manager at this particular stage.
What have they been doing for the last 4 or 5 weeks?
Well, I suspect they've been looking at an option that waits for the conventional wisdom to come to the summer. Or maybe they don't have the options that we think that
what would you have done?
What would I have done faced with the same circumstances?
Come on, Simon, be honest with me. Would you have done exactly the same thing as Daniel?
Same as Daniel. What would I have done?
You would have. You'd have kept Stellini.
What would I have done?
No, you'd have done it better. You'd have done it better. Because when you employ someone like this, the thing to do is to keep him in the job. Yeah. How long can I keep him in the job? That's the issue. Yeah. Not getting him there, keeping him there.
But I also understand.
And he got that wrong and he's gone.
No, I agree with you. I also understand. I would have communicated with him differently because I'm a different personality to Daniel, right? But notwithstanding it, don't be under the illusion that these guys are easy to work with and that they don't behave in a certain fashion. And I'm not just going to go from the chairman's union because I think Daniel should do better and could do better. And at the end of the day, after 22 years of ownership, the only thing you can point to is the economic success of the football club. You're going to fall foul of a certain part of the fan base that want to see things won. You can't decry that. You can't say, well, the fact is the matter is that's irrelevant, because when Daniel and Joe Lewis took over the football club, that football club was in financial trouble and was in a situation that had no economic viability. Now they've got that with no win. So now what you want is both. And seemingly it evades them. So he goes after trophy managers. He goes after Mourinho at the wrong time in Mourinho's career. Right? It's okay. He's gone to Roma. They're going to finish fourth in the league. And they're going to win the European Conference League.
Just to stop you there, did he get rid of Pochettino just a little bit too soon? What sort of was that presenting?
Again, that's for Daniel to answer.
Where was
that
the
question.
loyalty there?
But loyalty cuts both
ways.
Building
an empire, no?
No, I think the Pochettino.
He took him to the Champions League final.
But that was, I think, the Pochettino.
3 months later, he sacked.
The Pochettino regime was beginning to unwind. That Champions League final, Spurs didn't even turn up him. And if you look at their form before that Champions League final, they were going in a wrong direction. If you look at their form at the beginning of the season, now maybe he should have stayed with Pochettino. Maybe he should have stayed with Pochettino, but they weren't winning anything under Pochettino either.
But Simon, it's the usual riders and runners, isn't it? I mean, the obvious names come to light every single time we're talking about Chelsea or Tottenham at the moment. Nagelsmann is it? Luis Enrique's in there. Yeah. I mean, where is this worldwide network of contacts that these people are meant to have? Well, where is it?
Well, I mean, look, there's only so many managers out there, and there's only so many managers that do jobs. We sat here debating with a very experienced manager in Graeme Souness that has very experienced views that decided to tell us that De Zerbi wasn't worth the paper that it was written on, right? And out of the ether has come a very good manager.
Exactly. On so Barber and Bloom have done it.
But he's on a very good platform. He took over. Very rarely do you get an opportunity to take over a football club that's going in the right direction.
Dropped a few
they were doing all right. Brighton, they were doing great. Potter handed them over a wonderful set of players and a wonderful set of...
our friend Christian Purcell got it right at Villa, because in comes Unai Emery, boom, he's made the difference. Well, it can be done. Sure, Tottenham and Levy can't do it.
But he also got it wrong with Steven Gerrard. So it took 15 months with Steven Gerrard.
Granted, but he had to get this one right. And he got it right with Unai Emery. It would seem Tottenham seemed unable to get it right.
And the answer could have been in the same way that Newcastle went for Unai Emery and didn't get him, and Villa did. That maybe Tottenham should have been looking at Unai Emery. But then it's difficult to employ Unai Emery because who did he manage last in England?
Well, they didn't stop George Graham managing Spurs.
Oh, yeah, and it didn't sit down very well, did it?
Let me be clear on this. You would stay with Stellini?
I would have, no, not as an ideal scenario, but if my alternative was what? What was my alternative? If my alternative was to go to the old lag brigade and wheel Harry Redknapp out, then I would have said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll stay with that. I'll stay with Ryan Mason, I'll stay with Stellini. It's not ideal, it's not what I want. And maybe they can hold it together. And maybe, just maybe, these group of slobs over here will have a bit of pride and not turn up to St James's Park and decide they've got no pride until they're 5 down.
What you'd have done, you'd have gone missing, wouldn't you, during that international break, and you just said, Conte, you're just going to have to turn up, fella, and face the music because you're going to be my manager for the rest of the season. That's what you'd have done.
But I think it's idealistic. I think in an ideal world, what you're saying is probably
has
some
right
tangibility. But when you've got somebody that wants to set your house on fire, short of taking the matches away from them, you're not going to stop them from doing it.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.